Hi, well, my name is Jeff with Big Hairy Dog, and this is a Big Hairy Dog webinar. And we might as well get started. If the other people are going to join us, they're going to join us. If not, they're not. This is about mobile point of sale, and basically we have three products here involved. Obviously, Rpro is the POS software, but in addition, we have Prism, the new version of Rpro, and we have Foundry Logic, which both have mobile options, shall we say. So both are pretty good as far as being PCI compliant and encrypted, all the appropriate things. So you can use Foundry Logic as a mobile point of sale or just as a line buster, and you can essentially suspend the transactions and push them back to Rpro. And Prism mobile point of sale, and basically it's a full access to Rpro. It's the new version of Rpro, so there's really no reason to. It can do everything that a regular workstation can do. There's some concerns, some logistics as far as setting it up. You have to have a PC there present that can run the printer and run the cash drawer and that kind of stuff if you're going to be using that stuff. Obviously, you're not going to be running it from an iPod, but so we'll probably should take a quick look at these things, right? So here's an iPod right here, and that's Foundry Logic right there. And I've already signed in. Obviously, you have to use your regular sign-in for Rpro credentials, username and login. To get into both, by the way, they both require a login. So in both cases, you can make a sale. I'm going to click New here on the iPod. And then Foundry Logic has been around with Rpro for quite a while on both version 8 and version 9. And we can, select an item. So we could scan an item if we needed to scan an item. We'd have to have a scanner hooked up. Right now I've just got an iPod in my hand. I don't have a sled with a scanner, but those are all options we can look at a little bit later here. I'm just going to grab an item, and yeah, my little presentation thing is not, I didn't subscribe to it, so it's making me click it again and again, right? And of course, once I find an item, I'm just picking the first one, I can click select, and it basically, if I had scanned it, it just rang it up. And of course, it's telling us we don't have a customer at the bottom. Now, as we go through these, if you guys have questions, most of you are unmuted. I'm trying to keep everybody unmuted to ask questions. Feel free to, otherwise, hop in the chat. And so, Robert, for some reason, we're getting like feedback on here, so I've got you muted. But if you need, just hit me in the chat, and I can open up your mic. But if you have questions, please feel free to jump in. That's kind of the whole point here, right? So to start off with, I mean, a quick sale, we would just go ahead and go to checkout at the top right corner. Show us the amount of money we have. We would decide how we're going to pay for it. I'm just going to say cash, and yeah, let's type in an amount here. Click OK. Finish, and right, boom. Of course, it would be printing now. If I had a printer, it would be actually feeding to the printer. And I've seen some situations where, we have 2 or 3 registers up front, and the register that's closest to the door, we feed the receipts from the mobile point of sales right to that one. So if you have like a situation where you have a line buster and you're trying to speed things up, then you could just be taking these off the same printer that another register is already using. Now these things, when we update this one here, this 9002, these things push back to, and this is Rpro right here, right? So these things push back to Rpro pretty quickly. I mean, it's already there. It's already pushed back into Rpro pretty much real time. It's not real time. There's a process for pushing it back in, but by the time you got to a register and looked, it would be there. right? So it's pretty fast. So you scan the items, you can charge it to a credit card. It has PCI compliant. It's point-to-point encryption. It loads the receipt pretty much real time. You can add a customer. We did not add a customer. We could go add a customer though. Not a big deal. You can also park the sale as part of the configuration with Foundry Logic. There is this thing at the bottom right corner here that if I click on, it should let me in. See if we can get into. There we go. So this is the retail mobile manager. This is what's managing the back end of Foundry Logic. And there are preferences in here and configurations for setting it up. And you have to actually go in here and push the data, which can be scheduled. You can have it scheduled to push data down every day, right? So that as you add items to Retail Pro, they're pushing into your mobile point of sale software as well. And it keeps the thing synchronized. But just to know that there is this thing on the back end, and there are choices about how when you park a sale in the mobile software, does it come over as a held transaction or does it come over as a sales order? That's kind of a choice that you have when you configure that one. Right. So if we pop back in here and I say new, grab an item real quick out of inventory. Select, say we want a customer, we click on customers at the bottom, it's showing all of our customers. We could search for a customer, grab a customer, and select. Pretty straightforward. And I don't see any questions yet, so I will just go ahead and check out real fast. Of course, I don't have real credit card processing connected here, right? So there's nothing that I'm going to be doing as far as getting the last four or getting them to sign it and all that stuff. All right, so right, you can do item searches. We just did one. You can do price lookups. You can see the image. We did not look at an image, and I'm not sure if I have images loaded or not in that database, but we can go take a quick look. So if we picked an item, at the bottom you see that, oh, you can't see a dang thing. Hold on a second. At the bottom you see while you're searching for an item, and I found an item here in inventory, but it helps if I have the screen up, doesn't it? You could click the image, and if it's loaded, it'll show. If not, it'll give us an error. But I don't have one loaded for that item. But that's all there is to it. If you have them loaded, they push over. So not sure that I have them loaded for anything. This isn't my database, and I have not got around to checking that. But all that comes along sort of with the thing. Select an item, and right. So back here on the transaction, if we could get on the right screen, back here on the transaction, I have other functions here. If I click this menu at the bottom down here, nice, new, select an item, go a little slower this time. Okay, select. Okay, so down here at the bottom, we got our customers. That's where we add customers. This little tray is where we add items. This little barcode is how we would scan. Now, without a sled, without a scanner hooked up to this, basically it would use the camera, right? So I would click that, and it would say it would want to actually scan the barcode using the picture. Not the most efficient, but okay, you could use it. And then the far left there, you've got the little menu, right, that lets you do all the other functions, like change your receipt type or change the price level or change the associate, select a customer out here, deal with fees, comments, POS flags, right? So all the stuff that a regular Retail Pro receipt could do could be done here in Foundry Logic as well. anyway. Right. So again, if we back up now, if I back up and I come back in by refreshing the screen, we can see those other two transactions just popped in. That last one just like, well, 111. It's 111 at the bottom, so in 14 seconds. So that part's pretty fast. All right, so that's just a kind of a display that shows you a little bit of some of the hardware that's out there. So the Captivo is a little bit older. The Rpro is a little newer. I think the Captivo is still available and still out there, but it's being discontinued. And the Rpro is the newer version. But you see that the sled there lets you slide the iPod into the sled, and the sled has a battery as well. So the sled can charge the iPod for a longer battery life. And then you have the ability to there's chip attachments, and there's a slider attachments, and the top is a scanner. Obviously, this little window over here on the right, if you can see my mouse, hopefully, that's the scanner. So you're able to click a button and have it scan. And right, PCI compliance is obviously of concern to everyone out there, and all this stuff is P2P or point-to-point encrypted. So when you put it in the chip reader, and there's a couple of different options. We even have those pictures. It gets into the logic of how Foundry Logic is laid out, right? Mobile devices talk to the retail mobile suite or services application, and then that talks to Retail Pro. So, all right. Anyway, so let's hop over and let's take a look at another option. So let's go ahead and back out of here and back to our getting desktop. And what I've got is Prism loaded, and I'm using Safari to get to it, which is fine. Prism is the next version of Retail Pro, and it is both operating system and browser agnostic. It doesn't care if you're on an iPod, yeah, right, maybe later, or if you're on a PC. It doesn't care if you're on a Mac or a regular PC computer or an Android tablet or, and in this case, an iPod. Now, that is Prism as it presents when you're in portrait mode, which you need for an iPod or something this small. You definitely need to go portrait on the presentation. Out here, if we take a look at regular, that's regular Prism, as it would appear, the same basic menu as in what would be a PC or a monitor presentation, right? So, and of course, I don't know if you guys have seen Prism or not, but the bottom right bar, the bottom right button down here at the very bottom, that's like the main menu, and that's how you move around. So that's the point of sale menu. If I click over to store operations, you see I get merchandise and purchasing and receiving. But that's not really why we're here today, and we're not really here to dig deeply into the Prism itself per se. We're more here about the mobile solution. So this case here, both this Prism here and the Prism that's in my hand right here, both these Prisms are connected to this Retail Pro here, all running on this PC. So if I were to go in here and find an item, and I could, if I wanted to sell that item, and I'm picking any item like here's an item. I was playing with this one earlier. So 000679, right? And if I pop into the iPod here and we say new transaction, let's see if we can, there it goes. And so if we click into there, and again, I don't have a sled here. It would be nice to have a sled, but they're changed pretty quickly, and we don't really need one to present this. You can't see me holding a sled anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and just key in that number that we just looked at, so 000679, and let's go ahead and click return, let it do the lookup, and it just rang up that item. So this has obviously very similar functionality. We can click tender down there at the bottom to start simple, and takes us over to the tender screen. Defaults to cash. We could change the tender type from tender cash to something else, but let's just start with cash. So we will just click in here. Now I could type it, right? Obviously, it's already it's in overtime mode, right? So I could just type in 50, but I could also just click that 50 in the background, right? I could just touch the button that says 50, and then I could hit take, and it says, okay, your change is $1.40. I could say, go ahead and give that back as cash, and go down to where it says print. And in both applications, as you probably saw in the last one, it came up and prompted me to email, and I did not bother to send an email out. But both of them are set up to email. Anyway, I'm going to click OK. That's my change window. And boom, there's the receipt. So it's presenting for I've configured this one to present to the screen because I could. And it's a lot easier when we have a webinar if everybody can just see the receipt on the screen, right? And of course, then when it resets back to ready to make a new transaction again. So let's dive back in and make some other choices here. And let's try something else here. Let's see what happens if I'm, okay, let's go there. Okay, back up here. Let's do boot. I was trying to get it to do a wildcard search because it should be doing a wildcard search, but I'm just not sure I'm doing it right here. This iPod is a little small in my hand. All right, let's just go ahead and click the advanced search. And of course in here, I could then select what window I want to look by. So I could say I want this to be like description 1. Then here I could type in what I'm looking for. And we are not getting a search to go here, are we? And of course, it works by ALU. It looks like one of my lookups may not be configured correctly. So another nice thing about Prism that I should mention, because I was just playing with Prism my last appointment, and I did find this kind of cool. I'd forgotten about this. And maybe this is small and trivial, but I don't know. I like cool things. So if we ring up an item, and we ring it up again, you see it just changed the quantity to 2 there on the screen. So right now you see that we have this team jersey, authentic, and we have a question too. That's exciting. What are the differences between the Honeywell Captiva and the Linea Pro? There's almost no differences. The Linea Pro is just a newer version from a different vendor. The Captiva was the only show in town for a long time, and it's been a great product. I have had no trouble with it, really, to be honest. Not sure why they're discontinuing it. I like the unit actually a lot. And then there's also the little mobile. There's like a mobile. What it's called, a Genius Mini that goes with it. With it. So the Genius Mini goes with the iPod, not the Rpro or the Captuvo, if you know what I mean. So there's no really reason to and I did not get a picture of that, but we could probably find one online if we wanted to go look for one, if that was something important. There's two versions of the Genius Mini. There's a completely separate device, and there's one that plugs into the bottom of the sled. The separate one I think I like better. I don't like the way the one hangs off the bottom of the sled that well, and the separate one is like it's like square. Honestly, it's about 2 inches square, and it's maybe a ½ inch thick, and you just pull it out of your pocket and slide the card into it, set it on the counter, and it reads the card. It's pretty straightforward, very, very slick. And with both of those, you have to load the Genius Mini app. The Genius Mini app is what makes the iPod talk to the Genius Mini, the specific Genius Mini. So you used to be able to go into the Bluetooth settings inside the iPod and configure that directly, and then they got away from that for some reason. I think the Cayenne folks that do the Genius Mini wanted more control over that pairing. So they actually wrote an app that you have to download their app to be able to pair that iPod to that device. It was super simple, though. You download the app, you go in, you configure it, tell it which device you're pairing to, and boom, just click pair, and it finds it every time. So I haven't had any trouble at all with that part of it. The pairing has been super, super easy. But that's what's happening, is that with the chip reader, you're going to be sticking the card into a little device, right? So you're either going to have the one that hangs off the bottom or the one that's a separate unit. And yeah, then you're juggling a couple of items. But usually you have a counter or someplace where you're setting the merchandise on, and you just slide that in and set it on the counter and let the customer be in control of that, because we want to really not touch the credit card if possible, right? That's the goal here. But as far as the Rpro, I've played with that less, in that we've started selling it and we've had it in here in the shop and we played around with it, whereas I've had Captuvos out in the field and actually helped customers with them. So, but I got nothing bad to say about it. If that's what you're looking for, I'm definitely no problem at all. Anyway, back here to this this little item here. If we're in that field, and you can see right there on the screen we have a quantity 2, and we put another one of those in. When I click return here, it should just change to a quantity 3. Well, it should have anyway. Done. Let's see what's going on here or there. All right, took me a little minute to get that to refresh. My iPod just refreshed, but my screen here did not. Of course, everybody's got to have technical problems, right? Okay, let's see if we can get that to refresh. Let's yeah, okay. All right, well, that's not terribly exciting. Have to say, we'll have to see if that comes back here in a second. There it goes. All right, fine. I don't know why it took that long to share out there. Let's get the little menu out of the way. And of course, now you can see, hopefully, if it'll refresh here. Are we on the wrong network? Let's just check here. I don't know. Everything's good there. Well, I apologize for having some technical difficulties here. We may have to switch our application out for the next one. This one does not seem as reliable as I thought. That was painful, but we at least got to the point where you can see the quantity 3. Let's hop back in here. So in Prism, of course, basically it's a full functioning Retail Pro. You can add customers, you can search inventory, you can change the tax, change the fees. All that stuff is possible. There's your basic layout. Now, Prism's a little bit different animal in that, and you can see the Cayenne. There's the Genius Mini on the bottom there. That's the one that you hook to the iPod directly, right? That you slide in. And of course, the Prism could be on any. It doesn't care what kind of tablet it is or what kind of computer it is. You have to set up a different. In fact, you can see down here in the bottom of the screen. I tried to make my resolution as low as I could make it on this monitor, so you guys could see it, have a decent view of the screen. And you can see down here you've got these 2 different little Prism icons down here, and this first one's port 8080, and this next one's port 8081. The iPod is operating on 8081, whereas the computer here is, when we hook into Prism, that's operating on 8080. And this is just a diagram, and we should blow this up a little bit to make it like a little bit more viewable for you guys. And what this is trying to show us here, and I can make it bigger if it's not big enough, it's just different configurations for Prism. This is not really a Prism webinar, but I wanted to just give you a quick overview of what this can do, right? So Prism, in this first example, you've just basically got Prism running on a server someplace at your head office, and you're running both tablets, iPods, and computers directly off that, and it doesn't care how far away it is. It's running over the web in the cloud, right? Now, that's not necessarily a great solution if you have internet problems. So the middle example you see, we have a Retail Pro main office, and we have a Retail Pro machine in the back that is acting as a local server and then talking to the main Retail Pro, if you follow. And then the third example, I included that one because it has the little MySQL database icons there. So you see that the registers have a little MySQL database backups. So they're running a local MySQL, and then it's feeding then either the local or the cloud-based server for Retail Pro, whichever. Those are all options in configuring it. But at least if you have a MySQL backup, right, you've got a safety net. You're not running completely in the cloud. Now, an iPod or an iPad could not run a Microsoft MySQL database backup, right? So you'd have to be on like a Surface Pro or a Dell tablet, right, or something that was an actual PC and had a regular Windows operating system in order to run that kind of which you could do. There's plenty of tablet solutions out there that could run Prism and have a MySQL database running. Or you could just go with a solution like they have in the middle there, where you're running a MySQL backup on a Retail Pro server that's one machine at that location, right? But again, this is not really about Prism, and I just threw this in here because I wanted to make sure that everybody gets that there are some old devices out there that are not point of sale. These are not point of sale. There's some cool stuff, and Foundry Logic has some nice units out there that run the physical inventory app. So let's see if this is going to be more friendly for us. Let me see what happens if I try and get off that app. Hey, it's working like a champ now. So down at the bottom here, you see that there are two Foundry Logic apps, right? So we looked at the blue one here, right, which is the Foundry Logic point of sale module, right? And it's making me long sign back in now. So we did not get to see that earlier because I had it already signed in, ready to go. But, you know, it doesn't hurt to sign in. It's a good thing to see. I just hate typing on these little screens. Anyway, I'm going to back out of this, and I'm going to point to the pink one here down at the bottom, which this one here is the physical inventory piece, right? This is the mobile physical inventory scanner where we scan something and upload it to a physical inventory account or to a receiving transaction or to a sales order or to a purchase order, right? So all of these devices here in the background, these are all old. These two on the right are older Rpro scanners, and then these two on the left are newer. But the Dolphin and the Genom XM66 both run Foundry Logic physical inventory scanning, right? They don't have mobile point of sale, which is fine if you're looking for something in the warehouse that's more robust. That Dolphin 6100 rocks. I mean, it's big. It's not tiny like a cell phone. It's big enough to get your hand on, and it's designed to be able to drop it and not break it, right? It's a warehouse ready type mobile scanner. But none of these are mobile point of sale. That's kind of the point. And you'll see those devices out and about if you've been around Rpro for a while. But none of those have to do anything with mobile point of sale. Now, obviously, if you're using one of these devices up here that has, if we can find that picture again, like this, these devices in the Linea Pro or in the Captuvo, they could run both apps. I mean, you could have a physical inventory scanner when you're not using it for point of sale, right? Or you could have a scanner that you use for mobile point of sale as a relief register, right? So certainly getting double bang for your buck is something to consider when you're looking at like this kind of hardware, you know, having that option. So that's really what I have as far as material to go through. This is not a long webinar typically. I guess I'm going to open it up and see if there's any other questions, though, about what we've done, or is there anything else you'd like to see in either application? Anybody? So, yeah, I don't really have a whole lot more unless there's, like I said, something you guys want to see with either Prism or with Foundry Logic. And right now, I mean, honestly, Prism is the new software. Foundry Logic is the pretty much the old reliable one, but Prism is definitely the way of the future. All the new point of sale softwares are coming out as HTML based, right? As browser based softwares, and so Prism has been coming along nicely. I have to say that it definitely is. In the beginning, they've been very, very upfront about Prism. Like the early versions, they said this doesn't work, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? So that we were never under any false impression about what any particular version of Prism could do. So. All right, well, I certainly appreciate everybody joining, and if you don't have any other questions, I guess I'm going to tell you guys to have a good day, and thank you very much for attending. All right, I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.